My boots are sinking into the freezing London mud, and the only sound in this graveyard is the wet, rhythmic scrape of iron against clay. If the watchman's lantern swings this way, I'm a dead man. But if I don't get this item to the back door of the anatomy school by dawn, the hunger in my stomach will kill me anyway. I am what the polite society calls a resurrectionist. To the law, I am a ghoul, a common thief of the worst sort. But to the surgeons in the flickering candlelight of the great Windmill Street laboratory, I am a necessary evil, a supplier of the only textbook that never lies, the human body. The air tonight is thick with the smell of coal smoke and rotting leaves, a typical October chill that bites through my thin wool coat. I grip the handle of the short-shoveled spade, my knuckles raw and bleeding from the previous night's work. We don't dig a standard grave. That's for the mourners. We dig a small, precise square at the head of the mound, just enough to expose the wood of the coffin lid. My partner, a silent man we call the Crow, holds a canvas sack ready. We work in a frantic, controlled silence. Every clink of metal against stone feels like a gunshot in the stillness of the parish churchyard. I can feel the vibration of the earth in my teeth. The soil here is loose. This one was buried only yesterday. That's the rule of the trade. The fresher the subject, the higher the price. A corrupt body, one touched by the green rot of a week's burial, is worth nothing but a curse from the anatomist. I reach the wood. Thud. It's a hollow, lonely sound. I take the crowbar, the hook, and wedge it under the lid. I press down with all my weight, my muscles screaming, until the wood groans and snaps. The sound of splintering pine is loud enough to wake the saints. I freeze, holding my breath, staring toward the watchman's hut. No movement. Just the distant, lonely tolling of a bell from across the Thames. I reach into the dark. My fingers touch something cold, yielding, and waxy. It's a woman, likely a seamstress or a maid, taken by the fever that's been stalking the rookeries. I don't look at her face. In this business, if you look at the faces, you start to see your own mother or your own sister. You keep your eyes on the merchandise. We loop a rope under her arms and haul. The body comes up with a sickening, wet suction, a sound that stays in your ears long after the sun comes up. She's stripped of her shroud immediately. That's the legal trick of it. Stealing a body is a misdemeanor, a slap on the wrist or a few months in Newgate. But stealing the clothes? That's a felony. That's the gallows. We leave the linen in the dirt and cram the cold, naked weight into the sack. My heart is hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. We have 3 miles to cover before the watch shifts, and the dead cart doesn't wait for laggards. This is the material reality of science in 1820. Before a doctor can save a life, men like me have to desecrate one. It's a bitter irony, but irony doesn't put bread on the table. Hunger does. The sack is heavy, heavier than you'd expect for someone so frail in life. We carry her between us, stumbling through the uneven rows of headstones. Every time my shoulder brushes against the canvas, I feel that dead, shifting weight. The physical reality of a human life reduced to a cargo. We aren't just digging graves, we are harvesting the city's poverty. London in the 1820s is a machine that runs on bodies, and the anatomy schools are the furnace. The law is a cruel joke. The only way for a surgeon to legally obtain a body for dissection is from the gallows, murderers specifically. But there aren't enough murderers to satisfy the hunger of 500 medical students. So, the gap is filled by men like me. We are the resurrection men, providing the raw material for the surgeons who will later be knighted for their discoveries. We reach the perimeter wall. The crow whistles, a low, sharp sound like a nightjar. A moment later, the rattle of a cart echoes from the lane. It's our driver, a man who asks no questions and smells perpetually of gin and damp hay. We hoist the sack over the brickwork. It hits the floor of the cart with a dull thump. One small one? The driver grunts. A female. Fresh, I reply, wiping the grave dirt onto my breeches. Take us to the borough, St. Thomas's. Mr. Astley Cooper's men are waiting. As the cart jolts over the cobblestones of the London Bridge, the city begins to stir. The night soil men are finishing their rounds. The first chimney sweeps are shivering in the doorways. To them, we look like any other delivery cart. That is the secret of our trade. We hide in plain sight, a shadow economy that services the highest levels of British science. The price for a subject fluctuates like the price of wheat. A large, muscular male can fetch 10 guineas. A small child, what we call a large size, might go for 6. Our seamstress in the sack will likely bring us 8. To put that in perspective, a common laborer earns about 10 shillings a week. One night of digging can earn me more than a month of honest, back-breaking toil in the docks. But the money is stained. It's not just the dirt under my fingernails. It's the constant, vibrating paranoia. If a mob catches us, they won't wait for the constables. They'll tear us apart right there on the cobbles. The poor of London might not have much, but they have a primal, holy terror of the doctor's knife. They believe that if the body is carved up, there is no resurrection on Judgment Day. To them, we aren't just thieves. We are the men who steal their eternity. We pull into a narrow alley behind the hospital. The air here changes. It's sharper, metallic, smelling of vinegar, formaldehyde, and something sweet and cloying. A side door opens, spilling a rectangle of yellow light onto the wet stones. A young man in a blood-stained apron steps out. He doesn't look at us. He looks at the sack. Fresh? He asks, his voice bored. Died yesterday, I say. He pokes the sack with a finger, checking the elasticity of the flesh through the canvas. He nods. Bring her in. Be quick about it. The students arrive at 7. We carry her into the cool room. It's a stone-floored cellar lined with wooden slabs. I try not to look around, but I see them. The remnants of yesterday's deliveries. A limb here, a torso there, all partially stripped of their humanity by the scalpel. This is the hierarchy of the 19th century. The rich are buried in lead-lined coffins under stone monuments, and the poor are delivered to the basement of St. Thomas's to be taken apart piece by piece in the name of progress. The student hands me the coins. They are cold and heavy. As I walk back out into the gray London morning, the sun is finally breaking through the fog. I look at my hands. The dirt is deep in the creases of my skin, a permanent map of the churchyards I've visited. I have 8 guineas in my pocket, but as the bells of St. Paul's begin to ring, all I can feel is the phantom weight of that canvas sack against my spine. The 8 guineas in my pocket feel like lead weights. In London's underworld, word travels faster than the cholera. By the time I reach the Fortune of War Tavern near Smithfield Market, the regulars already know I've had a successful night. This is our headquarters, a place where the landlord looks the other way, and the air is thick with the smell of cheap gin and unwashed bodies. This isn't a job for the lone wolf. To survive as a resurrectionist, you need a crew. We call ourselves the Borough Boys, There's the Crow, our lookout, Ben, the driver who knows every back alley from Wapping to Westminster, and me, the lifter. We operate with the precision of a clockwork mechanism, but the gears are greased with paranoia. To the outside world, we are chaotic ghouls, but inside the trade, there is a rigid, unspoken bureaucracy. We have territories. If you dig in a graveyard belonging to another gang, you don't just risk the law. You risk a knife between the ribs in a dark lane. We pay hush money to the sextons and graveyard watchmen. A few shillings here, a bottle of brandy there, and suddenly the watchman's lantern always seems to be facing the wrong way when we scale the wall. But the system is rigged against us. The surgeons who pay our fees are the same men who sit on the board of the hospitals, and sometimes the very courts that judge us. They need us, but they loathe us. They treat us like the sewage pipes of the city, essential for the health of the metropolis, but something to be buried and forgotten. I sit in the corner of the tavern, nursing a pint of bitter. My hands are still shaking. It's the resurrectioner's shakes. It comes from the constant state of high alert, the fear of the snatch. At any moment, a group of local residents, the graveyard watch, might decide to take the law into their own hands. They've started building mort safes now, heavy iron cages locked over the graves, or worse, dead houses, where the bodies are kept under lock and key until they start to rot, specifically to make them useless to us. The material reality of my life is a series of escalating obstacles. Every week, the poor get more desperate to protect their dead, and the surgeons get more demanding for fresh meat. I've seen men in my trade start to cut corners. If they can't find a body in the ground, they start looking for people who aren't quite dead yet. I think of the seamstress from this morning. To the surgeon, she was a map of muscles and nerves. To me, she was 8 guineas. But somewhere in a tenement in Spitalfields, there is an empty chair and a family wondering why their mother's grave looks disturbed. I finish my drink and stand up. My back is stiff, a permanent souvenir of the shovel. The Crow nods at me from the bar. There's a new shipment of merchandise needed for the morning lecture at Guy's Hospital. A private anatomy school has offered a bonus for a fine specimen. A male, young, no visible disease. The sun is setting again, casting long, skeletal shadows over the city. The cycle begins anew. I head toward the door, my boots clicking on the floorboards. I have to go back to the mud. I have to go back to the silence of the dead. Because in 1820, the living are much more expensive to keep than the dead are to find. The sun doesn't bring relief. It only brings the need for better camouflage. By day, I am a shunter at the markets or a porter at the docks, just another faceless ghost in the London fog. But my mind is always in the churchyards. I spend my afternoons scouting. A successful snatch isn't won with a shovel. It's won with observation. I walk past the iron gates of St. Bride's, dressed in a borrowed clerk's coat, looking for the telltale signs of a fresh burial. You look for the flowers that haven't wilted yet. You look for the mourners who linger too long, their grief a beacon for men like me. I take note of the watchman's hut. How many windows? Does he have a dog? Is the dog the kind that barks at shadows, or the kind that can be silenced with a piece of drugged meat? This is the psychological tax of the trade. You stop seeing a cemetery as a place of rest and start seeing it as a warehouse of inventory. You calculate the depth of the soil by the color of the clay. You estimate the weight of a mahogany coffin versus a pine one. Pine is better. It snaps easier. Mahogany is for the gentry. and the gentry have coffin furniture, iron straps and spring-loaded bolts designed specifically to stop us. The crow meets me at the corner of Fleet Street. He looks pale, even for him. "The Spitalfields mob is out," he whispers. "They found a hole at St. Leonard's this morning. They've dragged the sexton to the magistrate." This is the danger of the scare. When the public finds out a grave has been violated, the city transforms. Suddenly, every cart is suspicious. Every man with a spade is a target. The surgeons will go quiet for a few days, pretending they don't know us, leaving us to starve while the heat dies down. They'll sit in their mahogany offices reading journals of medicine, while we hide in the damp cellars of the East End, listening for the sound of the front door being kicked in. To counter the mobs, we've had to get smarter. We don't just dig anymore. We use the hook. We dig a hole 10 feet away from the headstone, then tunnel horizontally to the end of the coffin. We break the wood at the feet, slide a long iron hook inside, catch the shroud, and haul the body out through the tunnel like a worm from a burrow. From the surface, the grave looks untouched. The flowers are still there. The dirt is still flat. The family comes back the next day to pray over 6 feet of empty space. It's a specialized labor. It requires the nerves of a thief and the precision of a surgeon. My hands are constantly cramped into claws from the grip of the iron. My lungs are perpetually filled with the dust of old bones and the damp rot of the London basin. But tonight, the pressure is different. The specimen for Guy's Hospital isn't just a request, it's a debt. I owe the landlord of the Fortune of War for 3 weeks of gin and silence. If I don't deliver, the silence ends. The system doesn't just squeeze the dead. It crushes the living into doing things that make them wish they were the ones in the sack. I check the edge of my spade. I check the tension on the ropes. The moon is beginning to rise, silver and cold over the rooftops. Somewhere out there, someone is taking their last breath, and I am already counting the coins their body will bring me. It's a parasitic life, but in the heart of the empire, everyone is feeding on someone else. I'm just the one with the shovel. The specimen Guy's Hospital wants isn't just anybody. They want a medical rarity. Word has trickled down through the student assistants that a young man was buried 2 days ago at St. Pancras, a giant of a fellow, nearly 7 feet tall, taken by a sudden lung fever. In the world of anatomy, a giant is worth more than a dozen common laborers. He is a prize. He is a museum piece before he's even cold. But St. Pancras is a fortress. The walls are 10 feet high, topped with broken glass that glitters like diamonds in the moonlight. They have 2 watchmen and a mastiff that sounds like a lion when it catches a scent. To get the giant, we can't just dig. We have to perform a piece of theater. I spend the evening at a slop shop in 7 Dials, buying a set of morning clothes that don't smell too much of the previous owner. I need to look like a man crushed by grief, not a man who spends his nights in the mud. The crow, meanwhile, is busy at the chemist's, buying a pound of raw beef and a small vial of laudanum. By midnight, we are at the perimeter. The air is still, the kind of quiet that makes your own heartbeat sound like a drum. I am perched on the crow's shoulders, peering over the glass-topped wall. I see the watchman's lantern bobbing near the far chapel. I see the mastiff, a shadow among shadows, pacing the central path. I toss the beef. It's a silent transaction. The dog doesn't bark. It's too hungry for the gift. Within 20 minutes, the laudanum takes hold, and the beast is curled in the tall grass, dreaming of things that aren't us. We scale the wall. The glass bites into my palms, but I don't cry out. Blood is a small price for a giant. We find the mound. It's massive, a mountain of fresh earth that reflects the pale moon. This won't be a simple hook job. To get a man of this size out, we have to open the whole length of the coffin. The work is brutal. My spade hits the clay again and again. Every muscle in my back feels like it's being pulled across a rack. I can feel the sweat freezing on my skin. We are 5 feet down when the crow hisses, a lantern moving toward us. We drop flat into the open grave, pressing our faces into the cold, wet dirt. The smell of the earth is overwhelming, metallic, ancient, and suffocating. I hear the watchman's boots crunching on the gravel path. He's whistling a low, mournful tune. He stops right at the edge of our pit. I can see the yellow glow of his lamp reflecting off the handle of my shovel, which is sticking out of the mud just inches from his boot. I stop breathing. My heart is a frantic hammer in my chest. I wait for the shout, for the crack of a pistol, for the end of my life. But the watchman just sighs, spits into the dark, and moves on. He's tired. He's underpaid. He wants to be back in his hut with his pipe. He doesn't want to see us. We wait until the light vanishes before we move again. My hands are shaking so hard I can barely grip the crowbar. We reach the lid. It's thick oak. The family had money. It takes both of us, straining until the wood screams, to snap the top third of the coffin. Then I see him. Even in the dark, he is magnificent. A colossus in a white shroud. He looks less like a man and more like a fallen marble statue. But there is no time for awe. We loop the heavy ropes under his massive shoulders. "Heave," the crow whispers. He doesn't budge. The suction of the wet clay holds him tight, like the earth itself is refusing to let go of its prize. We pull until my vision goes black at the edges. Slowly, agonizingly, he begins to rise. It's a slow-motion resurrection. As his head clears the lip of the grave, the moon catches his face. He looks peaceful. I feel a sudden sharp pang of something I haven't felt in years. Shame. But then I remember the 8 guineas. I remember the rent. I remember the hunger that waits for me in my cold room in Spitalfields. Shame is a luxury for those who don't have to dig for their dinner. We haul him over the wall, his massive limbs dangling like a puppet's, and load him into the cart. As we drive away, the sun is a thin, bloody line on the horizon. My job is done. The surgeons will have their wonder. The students will have their lecture. And I will have enough money to pretend, for a few days at least, that I am a man who lives in the light. But the dirt never truly comes off. It's under the nails, in the pores, in the very soul. You don't just resurrect the dead. You bury yourself a little deeper with every body you lift. The money from the giant is gone within a week. Most of it went to pay off the debts that were strangling me, and the rest disappeared into the pockets of the crow and our driver. That's the curse of this trade. The money is fast, but it's slippery. It's blood silver, and it burns a hole in your pocket because you can't stand to keep it long enough to feel its weight. But while the money vanishes, the risk only grows. The Parliament is whispering about a new law, the Anatomy Act. They say they want to end the disgraceful trade of the resurrection men. They want to make it legal for surgeons to take the bodies of the unclaimed poor from the workhouses. To the surgeons, it's a victory for science. To men like me, it's a death sentence for our livelihood. And to the poor, it means that if you die in a workhouse, you don't even get the dignity of a grave to be stolen from. The pressure makes the gangs desperate. We aren't just fighting the law anymore. We are fighting a closing door. I'm sitting in a doorway near the Royal College of Surgeons, watching a delivery arrive. It's not one of ours. It's a group from the north, men who look more like butchers than lifters. They don't have the finesse of the burrow boys. They don't use the hook or the tunnel. They are messy, and mess brings heat. They're going to ruin it for everyone, the crow mutters, leaning against the damp brickwork beside me. The people are waking up. Did you hear about what happened in Aberdeen? They burned the anatomy theater to the ground, with the doctor still inside. I feel a cold shiver that has nothing to do with the London fog. The city is a powder keg. Every time a family finds an empty coffin, a new fuse is lit. We aren't just stealing bodies. We are stealing the peace of the living, and the living are starting to bite back. The magistrates have increased the bounty on our heads. They've started using shroud stoppers, heavy iron bars buried deep in the earth to snap our shovels. They've hired more watchmen, men with blunderbusses who don't care if they hit a resurrectionist or a grieving widow as long as they hit something. I look at my hands. The skin is permanently stained with the gray of the graveyard. I can't go into a baker's shop without people smelling the earth on me. I've become a part of the soil. I am a living ghost, walking through a city that hates me, but can't stop using me. We need one more big score, I say, my voice raspy from the cold-choked air. One more, and I'm taking a boat to the Americas. I heard they need doctors there too, and doctors need teachers. The crow laughs, a dry hacking sound. The Americas? You'll be digging in the same mud, just a different continent. There's no escaping the shovel, Jack. Once you've lifted one, you've lifted them all. He's right. The system doesn't let you go. The surgeons need their specimens, the schools need their tuition, and the city needs its secrets buried, until it needs them dug up again. I am a gear in a machine that runs on the friction between life and death. Tonight, the wind is picking up, whistling through the narrow lanes of Southwark. It sounds like a woman screaming, or maybe it's just the wood of a coffin lid groaning under my crowbar in my dreams. I stand up, shaking the stiffness from my joints. The moon is hidden behind a thick blanket of smog. It's a perfect night for a snatch. But as I reach for my spade, I find myself looking over my shoulder. Not for the watchman, not for the dog, but for the shadow of the man I used to be. Before I learned that the most profitable thing you can find in a grave is your own humanity, discarded like a cheap shroud. The rumor mill in the taverns has turned into a roar. It wasn't a grave robbery that broke the city's patience. It was what happened inside the schools. A rumor began to circulate that the surgeons weren't just dissecting the dead, they were commissioning the dying. I'm standing in the shadows of an alleyway near Smithfield, watching a mob gather. They aren't just the poor from the rookeries anymore. There are shopkeepers here, artisans, mothers carrying heavy wooden rolling pins. They are marching toward the private anatomy theater of a doctor who was a bit too vocal about his need for fresh specimens. They found a body, the crow whispers, appearing beside me. His face is ghost white. Not in a grave, in a trunk. A woman from the East End. She wasn't dug up, Jack. She was invited into a house for a drink and never walked out. The air turns cold. This is the shadow we all feared. The resurrection men were thieves, yes, but we were thieves of the earth. We followed the rules of the spade. But now, names like Burke and Hare are drifting down from Edinburgh like a foul wind. They didn't wait for the funeral. They realize that a living body is just a dead body that hasn't been processed yet. Suddenly, being a resurrectionist isn't just a misdemeanor. In the eyes of this mob, we are all murderers. The first torch is thrown. The window of the anatomy theater shatters, and the sound of breaking glass triggers a primal scream from the crowd. I see the medical students, those arrogant boys who used to toss us half-guineas like we were dogs, clambering out of the back windows, their silk waistcoats torn, their faces twisted in terror. The mob rushes inside. I hear the sound of heavy tables being overturned. I hear the smash of jars, the pickled specimens, the curiosities, the preserved limbs, all being shattered against the stone floor. The history of science is being trampled into the mud by the boots of the people it claimed to serve. We have to move. If the mob finds us, they won't ask if we dug our merchandise out of the clay or created it in a cellar. To them, we are the ghouls who made this world possible. We slip through the back alleys, our hearts pounding against our ribs. The smell of smoke follows us. The city is purging itself of the doctor's knife. But as I run, I realize the irony. The surgeons will survive this. They will hide in their clubs. They will write letters to the papers about the ignorance of the masses. And they will eventually pass their Anatomy Act to get their bodies legally. But men like me, we are the ones the law is designed to erase. We are the evidence of a system that needed the poor to be useful even after they were dead. We reach the river. The Thames is a black ribbon of filth and secrets. I look back at the orange glow over the rooftops. The anatomy theater is a bonfire now. I take my short-handled spade, the tool that has fed me and cursed me for 10 years, and I hurl it into the water. It vanishes with a quiet splash. The crow looks at me. What now? Now, I say. We find a way to become invisible, because in this new world, the only thing more dangerous than being dead is being the person who knows where the bodies are hidden. We walk away from the fire, merging into the shadows of a London that is finally closing its graveyards to the likes of us. The era of the resurrection men is ending. Not with a whimper, but with the scent of burning formaldehyde and the heavy, rhythmic sound of a city reclaiming its dead. The 1832 Anatomy Act finally silenced the shovels of the resurrection men. By allowing surgeons to claim the bodies of those who died in workhouses and hospitals unclaimed, the government effectively turned poverty into a medical resource. The ghouls were no longer needed because the state had become the ultimate supplier. Today, we look back at the era of body snatching as a gothic horror, a dark chapter of medical history. But beneath the stories of midnight graves and canvas sacks lies a deeper truth about the cost of progress. Modern medicine was built on the backs and the bones of those who were too poor to protect their own rest. Every time we benefit from a surgical technique or an anatomical map, we are, in a way, the inheritors of the resurrection men's grim labor. The churchyards of London are quiet now, their mort safes rusted, and their dead houses turned into garden sheds. But the earth still remembers the weight of the spade, and the silence of the city still carries the echo of the men who worked in the dark so that science could find the light. We moved on, we legalized the process, and we covered the dirt with pavement. But we never truly stopped harvesting the human story to save our own.